I was 17, the summer I took a job as a night attendant at a family-owned campground tucked deep in the woods of northern Michigan. It wasn't a busy place, maybe a dozen campers scattered through the pines at any given time, and most nights were quiet. My job was simple: walk the grounds once an hour, check the bathrooms, lock the tool shed, and sit in the tiny front office cabin with a radio until sunrise. I thought it would be easy money. And it was, until the third night. It started around 2:30 a.m. I was making my second loop when I heard a faint sound, like whispering, coming from one of the deeper trails that looped out toward the lake. At first, I thought it might be some teens drinking or fooling around, which wouldn't be uncommon. I walked a little farther in, shining my flashlight into the dense trees. The beam shook slightly from my nerves, but I didn't see anyone, just dark swaying branches. Then the whispering stopped, and something else started. A crunching sound, like someone walking very slowly through the leaves, not far from me. I called out, "Hey, camp's closed out here, you need to head back." No answer. I held the light steady and stood there, trying to listen over the pounding of my own heart. Then I saw it. Or, I almost saw it. A figure, just barely out of range of my light. It wasn't moving. It just stood there, tall and still. I couldn't see a face. I blinked hard, took a step closer, and my flashlight died. That was enough for me. I turned and walked quickly back toward the main path. Not quite running, but close. I made it back to the office and locked the door behind me. I convinced myself it was just some camper who got lost. Maybe drunk, maybe trying to scare me. I didn't call the owners. Didn't want to seem like a scared kid who couldn't handle the dark. The next night, I brought fresh batteries and kept the flashlight close. Again, around 2:30 a.m., I started my walk. And again, when I reached the trail near the lake, I heard that same faint whispering. This time, I didn't go in. I stood at the edge of the trail, pointing my light in. Nothing. The whispering faded. As I turned to continue my walk, I heard footsteps behind me, clear as day, heavy and deliberate. I spun around. The trail was empty. I didn't finish my loop. I went back to the office and stayed there the rest of the night, staring at the window. The last night I worked there, something changed. Around 3 a.m., I noticed a camper, an older man, standing outside the office looking in. He didn't knock, just stared through the glass. His face was blank, almost sleepy. I opened the door just a crack. "You all right, sir?" I asked. He spoke slowly. "Do you walk the trail near the lake?" I nodded. "Don't," he said. "Don't go near it again." Then he walked off. I watched him go, but when I checked the guest log the next morning, no one fitting his description was registered. That same morning, I quit. I packed up, drove home, and never looked back. But every summer night since, around 2:30 a.m., I wake up for no reason at all. And I swear, sometimes I still hear that whispering, even here, miles away from that forest. That summer, my parents sent me to stay with my grandma in her small town while they went on a trip to Europe. I was 16 and not too excited about spending 3 weeks in a creaky old house with no Wi-Fi, no TV, and a backyard full of chickens. Grandma was sweet but quiet. She spent most of her day gardening, cooking, or reading in her room. The house was big, 3 bedrooms, a narrow staircase, and a long hallway upstairs with 4 doors. 3 of them were open. 1 was always locked. Naturally, I asked about it. "Oh, that's just storage," Grandma said, barely looking up from her knitting. "Old furniture and junk I don't want to throw out." I left it at that. At first. The second night, I noticed something strange. Around 2 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. As I stepped into the hallway, I heard a soft bump from behind the locked door, like something had moved or shifted. I froze, listened. Another bump, followed by a faint creaking noise, like someone walking across old wooden floorboards. I stared at the door for a long moment. My heart beat faster, but nothing else happened, so I went back to bed, trying to forget it. But the sounds didn't stop. Each night, around the same time, there'd be something. A knock, a scrape, a soft, dragging sound. Once, I even heard what I swear was a quiet cough. On the fourth night, I asked Grandma again. "Are you sure there's no one in that room?" I said casually, trying not to sound scared. She looked at me a little too long, then said, "Of course not. It's just a bunch of boxes. Probably shifting when the house settles at night." "But the door's locked," I said. "Can I see inside?" Her tone changed. I said no. That room stays shut. She never raised her voice before, but she did then. I apologized and didn't ask again, but I couldn't let it go. That night, I stayed up, lying in bed with the door cracked open. Just after 2 a.m., I heard it again. Soft footsteps. Then the doorknob rattled, gently, like someone inside was trying to open it quietly. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The next morning, while Grandma was watering plants outside, I crept upstairs and stood in front of the door. I pressed my ear against it. Nothing. Then I noticed the bottom of the door. It looked scratched. Faint lines in the wood, like fingernails. I reached for the doorknob, still locked, but I had an idea. That night, I slipped a spoon from the kitchen drawer and carefully slid it between the door and frame, trying to pop the old lock. After a few tries, I heard a soft click. The door opened with a long, low creak. The room was dark and dusty. The smell hit me first. Stale air, like something had been shut away for years. The curtains were drawn, and the only light came from the hallway behind me. I stepped inside. There was an old dresser, a cracked mirror, a bed with a dusty sheet over it, and on the far wall, drawings. Children's drawings. Crayon pictures, taped to the wall, smiley faces, trees, stick figures holding hands, and names. The same name written over and over again. Lucy. I backed away slowly, suddenly feeling very cold. Then I noticed something that made me stop breathing. On the bed, under the dust-covered sheet, was the shape of a small body. I turned and ran. Straight down the stairs. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even close my eyes. The next morning, Grandma noticed my pale face and shaking hands. "You opened the door, didn't you?" she asked, her voice flat. I nodded slowly. She sighed and sat down at the table. Her eyes looked far, away, like she was remembering something painful. "Lucy was your aunt," she said softly. "She was 6, died in that room." My throat tightened. "How?" She didn't answer for a long time. "There was an accident. A long time ago. Your grandfather was supposed to be watching her. He fell asleep. She locked herself in and couldn't get out. By the time we realized, it was too late." I couldn't speak. I felt sick. "I locked the room after that," Grandma whispered. "I didn't want to forget her, but I also didn't want to remember. Later that day, she locked it again. But that night, my last night there, I woke up again around 2 a.m. This time, it wasn't footsteps. It was singing. A soft, broken voice, humming a child's lullaby from behind that locked door. I left the next morning without saying much. Haven't gone back since, but sometimes, in the middle of the night, I hear that song in my head. And I think about Lucy, still locked in that room, waiting for someone to open the door again. I was 15 the summer my family moved into a small rental house while our new home was being built. It was an old place on a quiet street, a little worn down, but still nice. The living room had a huge front window that looked out onto the road and our neighbor's yard. From the very first night, I noticed something strange. Every evening, around 8 p.m., I would see a girl in the window of the house across the street. She looked about my age. Same place, same time, just standing there, staring out at the street with a blank face. Not waving, not moving, just standing. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe she was just daydreaming or bored. But after a few days, it started to feel weird. She never changed clothes, always a pale blue dress. Her long dark hair always looked messy, like she hadn't brushed it, and she never seemed to move from that window. One evening, I asked my mom about her. "Hey, have you seen the girl across the street? She's always in the window." Mom glanced up. "Which house?" I pointed. "The one with the red flowers out front." She looked out, squinted, then frowned. "I don't see anyone." I turned to look again. The girl was there. Same blue dress, just standing. "She's right there," I said. But Mom shook her head. "I don't see anything, sweetie. Maybe she just stepped away." But she hadn't. I was sure of it. That night, I watched longer. I sat on the couch and stared through our big front window, directly at hers. The girl stood there until it got dark, then slowly stepped back into the shadows. I didn't see her again until the next evening, same time, same spot. I tried waving once, no reaction. I even lifted a paper that said "Hi" in big letters. Still nothing. Just her distant, unblinking stare. I thought about going over and knocking on the door, but I didn't want to seem creepy or weird, so I waited and kept watching. About a week later, I noticed something different. One evening, the girl wasn't just standing still. She raised her hand and pointed, not at me, not at the house, at the window directly above hers. I followed her finger. There was a second window, dark and covered with blinds. But something about it gave me a bad feeling. It felt cold to look at, like something was wrong up there. Then, without warning, she disappeared, just stepped back and was gone. I didn't see her again for 2 nights. On the third night, I was brushing my teeth when I glanced out the bathroom window and saw the blue dress. She was back, but not in the front window. She was standing at the upstairs window now, the one she pointed to. Her face was different, pale, like chalk. Her mouth was open like she was screaming, but I couldn't hear a thing. I stepped back. I didn't know what to do. I ran downstairs and told my dad. "There's something wrong with that house across the street." I saw a girl. She looked scared. He looked at me like I was imagining things. "Nobody lives there," he said. "That house has been empty for years. The owner passed away. But I've been seeing someone every night," I shouted. He walked over to the window, looked out. "It's just an old house, kiddo. Probably shadows or your imagination." But I knew what I saw. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about her face, that silent scream. The next day, I decided I couldn't just ignore it. Around noon, I walked across the street and up the short path to the front door. The house looked even older up close. Paint peeling. Wood soft and cracked. The red flowers were fake, plastic in a half-broken pot. I knocked. No answer. I pushed the door. It creaked open. I know what you're thinking. Why would I go in? I don't. No. I felt like I had to. like she wanted me to. Inside, it was dusty and quiet. Everything smelled like old carpet and wood. Furniture was covered in sheets. The house felt frozen in time. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creaking louder than the last. At the end of the hallway was that room, the one with the upstairs window. I turned the knob, the door opened. Inside was a small bedroom, a twin bed with a faded blue blanket, a broken lamp, a cracked mirror, and taped to the wall, dozens of pictures, drawings. Most were of a girl in a blue dress, standing in front of a window. In the corner of the room, there was a large, old wooden trunk. I don't know why I did it, but I opened it. Inside were clothes, and a folded newspaper article. It was yellowed and torn, but I could still read the headline, "Teen Girl Dies in House Fire. Body Found in Locked Upstairs Room." The photo below showed her face. The same girl, same blue dress. I dropped the article and ran. That night, I stared out my window again, but the girl never came back. Her window stayed dark. But now, every summer evening around 8 p.m., I sit by the window, just in case. And sometimes, I swear I see the curtain shift, just a little. Last summer, I took a road trip with two of my friends, Jake and Lucas. We had just finished our first year of college and wanted to see the mountains. The plan was to drive through small towns, camp a few nights, and stay in cheap motels when we needed showers or sleep. On the third night, it started raining hard, so we looked for a motel instead of camping. We found one off a quiet road, with a flickering neon sign that just said motel in red letters. The building was old, with peeling paint, and only 5 or 6 rooms. We walked into the front office. The man behind the desk was in his 50s, with a gruff voice and a tired face. He barely looked at us. "One night?" he asked. "Yeah," Jake said. "Just one, 3 people." The man handed us a key without saying anything else. The tag read, Room 3. We thanked him and walked outside. Room 3 was right in the middle. The door creaked as we opened it. The room had 2 small beds, a dusty nightstand, and old brown carpet. It smelled like mold and something else, like rust or wet metal. We laughed it off. It was just for one night. But that night, things got weird. I woke up around 2:30 a.m. because I heard something. A soft click, like a door unlocking. I sat up, in bed. Lucas was asleep, snoring lightly. Jake was in the other bed, facing the wall. I listened. Another click. Then, a slow creaking sound, like a door being opened, just a little. I looked at our door, still shut. Then I noticed something strange. The key. It was hanging from the inside knob. We had left it on the table. I got up, walked over, and picked it up. The tag still said, Room 3. But as I turned it over in my hand, I noticed something scratched, into the back, almost hidden. "Don't open the door." I froze. I looked out the peephole. No one there. But then came the knock. Not loud, just one, soft knock. I jumped back. Another knock. Still soft, still slow. I whispered, "Guys, wake up." Jake didn't move. Lucas stirred a little but didn't wake up. The knock came again. Then I heard breathing, right on the other side. Didn't open the door. Instead, I slid the chain lock into place and stepped back. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Then the knob turned. Whoever it was tried to open it slowly, like they were checking to see if it was unlocked. The chain stopped it. The door jerked once, then nothing. No more sound. I waited for 5 minutes, standing still. Then I looked through the peephole again. No one. I finally went back to bed, holding the key in my hand the whole time. The next morning, I asked the others if they heard anything. They said no. I didn't mention the knock. I didn't mention the key. But I still had it. When we checked out, the man behind the desk was gone. In his place was an older woman, maybe in her 70s, kind and soft-spoken. She smiled as we returned the key. "How was your night?" she asked. "It was fine," I lied. Then I added, "That key had a message scratched on the back. It said, 'Don't open the door.'" Her face changed. Just for a second, she reached out, took the key, and turned it over. Then she gave a tight smile. "Oh," she said. "That must have been from an old guest. Kids like to play tricks." I nodded, pretending to believe her. As we walked out, she called after me. "You're lucky," she said, voice quiet. "Room 3 is usually locked off." I turned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then said, "Last year, a man stayed in that room. He had no bags, no ID, paid in cash, stayed 2 nights. On the 3rd night, he tried to force his way into room 2. "What happened?" I asked. "He disappeared," she said simply. "We found the key on the floor. The tag said room 3, same one you had." She walked away after that. We didn't talk much on the road that day. But before we got to our next stop, I checked my pocket out of habit. The key was still there, even though I returned it. Tag and all. I threw it out the window. That night, we stayed at a nicer hotel. No weird knocks, no strange keys. But sometimes, I still wonder, what would have happened if I'd opened the door? And sometimes, I dream of a soft knock at night, followed by the sound of a chain breaking. It was the middle of summer, and I was staying at my cousin Eric's house for a week. He lived in a small town in Oregon, one of those quiet places with long roads, tall trees, and not much else. No malls, no movie theaters. Just a few shops, a gas station, and a big park at the edge of town. One night, we were both bored, sitting on the porch doing nothing. The air was warm, and the sky was clear. Around 11 p.m., Eric said, "Want to go for a walk?" "Where?" I asked. "Just around. There's a trail behind the park. It's peaceful at night." I didn't really feel like it, but I didn't want to seem scared, so I grabbed my hoodie and we headed out with a flashlight. The park was empty. The swings moved slightly in the wind, creaking a little. We passed the playground, walked behind the trees, and found the start of the trail. It was narrow and quiet, with bushes on both sides and tall trees above us. The flashlight barely lit, more than a few feet ahead, but Eric seemed relaxed, talking about old stories from school and weird people in town. After about 10 minutes, we noticed a fork in the trail. "Left goes toward the road," Eric said. "Right loops back to the park, but it's longer." "Let's take the long way," I said. "It's nice out." So we turned right. A few minutes later, we heard something behind us. A branch snapping. We both stopped. Eric turned around and pointed the flashlight down the path. "Probably a raccoon," he said. We walked a little faster. Then we heard it again. Snap, crunch, snap. Like footsteps on dry leaves. We stopped again. I whispered, "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," he said, voice low now. He called out, "Hello?" Silence. We waited. Then something moved in the bushes to our left. Fast. Eric quickly shined the flashlight, but there was nothing. "Let's just get back," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. We kept walking, faster now. Neither of us talked, just the sound of our feet crunching on gravel. Then we saw it, a shape. Someone was standing at the next bend in the trail, just standing, still, no light, no movement. We both froze. "Hey!" Eric called. No answer. I couldn't see the person's face, just their outline, tall, thin, and silent. Then the figure stepped off the path into the trees and vanished into the dark. We ran. We didn't say a word, just turned and sprinted back the way we came. I felt branches scratch my arms, and I nearly tripped more than once. But we didn't stop. We made it back to the playground, breathing hard. The park was still empty, quiet as before. Eric looked at me, his face pale. "What was that?" I shook. My head. "I don't know. Could have been someone messing with us." But deep down, I didn't believe that. We walked home quickly and didn't say much after that. The next morning, Eric told his mom about it. She listened quietly, then asked, "Which trail?" Eric explained. Her face changed. She sighed. "That's the old trail. You're not supposed to go there at night." "Why?" I asked. She looked uncomfortable. "Years ago, a boy from town went missing on that trail. Middle of the night. He and a friend went walking and never came back." "Both of them?" I asked. She nodded. "The friend was found 2 days later, hiding in a shed at the park. Shaking, wouldn't speak for a week." "What happened to the other kid?" Eric asked. She looked out the window. "Never found. After that, we didn't walk at night anymore." But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, I was sitting in Eric's room at night, watching videos on his laptop. The lights were off, window open. Just a fan blowing warm air into the room. That's when I heard it. From the trees behind the house. Crunch, snap, crunch, soft footsteps, slow. Just like on the trail. I stood up and looked outside. It was dark, but the moon was bright enough to see part of the yard, and there, just at the edge of the trees, I saw someone. The same shape, same height, just standing, watching, not moving. I whispered, "Eric." He was brushing his teeth. I called him again, louder. He came running. "What?" I pointed. But the yard was empty. "Someone was there," I said. "We searched the whole yard. Nothing. But I know what I saw." The rest of the week, I kept the window shut. And even now, sometimes, when I walk alone at night, I think about that trail, that sound, that shape, not running, not chasing, just watching. Last summer, I got my driver's license and was finally allowed to take my dad's old car for short drives. It was nothing fancy, a beat-up silver sedan with sticky windows and a broken CD player. But to me, it felt like freedom. One warm Saturday evening, I decided to go for a drive alone. My parents were out of town for the weekend, and I was bored. I grabbed my keys, filled up the tank at the gas station, and just started driving down the country roads outside our town. It was peaceful. The sun was setting behind the trees, turning, the sky orange and pink. I rolled the windows down and played music from my phone. I didn't have a destination, just wanted to feel the road. After about 45 minutes, I realized I should turn back before it got too dark. I made a U-turn on a wide empty road and started heading home. That's when I saw him. A man, walking along the side of the road. Nothing strange about that, until I passed him and looked into my rearview mirror. He had stopped walking. He was just standing there, in the middle of the road, staring at my car. I slowed down a little. Then the weirdest thing happened. The road behind me was empty. He was gone. I blinked and checked the mirror again. Nothing. I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe he stepped off the road or into the trees. I turned the music down and kept driving. A few minutes later, I glanced in the mirror again, and my stomach dropped. He was back, standing in the middle of the road again. Same spot, same stillness, It didn't make sense. I had driven a good distance since I saw him last. He couldn't have gotten back there without passing me. I hadn't turned off the road at all. I shook my head and kept driving. A little faster. Now. But I kept checking the mirror, and he kept showing up. Not always in the same place. Sometimes farther back. Sometimes closer. But always behind me. Always standing still. Never walking. Never waving. Just there. I thought maybe someone was playing a trick. Maybe it was a reflection or something stuck to the mirror. I even pulled over once to check. The mirror was clean. No one around. The road was completely empty. But as soon as I started driving again, he was there. In the mirror. Watching me. That's when I stopped looking back. I gripped the wheel and stared straight ahead. No more music. No more distractions. I just wanted to get home. About 10 minutes later, I turned into my neighborhood. I checked the mirror one last time. Nothing. Finally. I let out a breath I didn't even realize I was holding. But when I pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine, I looked into the rear view one more time, and my heart stopped. He was there. But not in the road, not outside. He was sitting in the back seat. I screamed and jumped out of the car so fast I dropped my phone on the driveway. I ran to the other side and yanked open the back door. Empty. No one there. The car was silent. Still. Normal. But my hands were shaking so hard I couldn't pick up my phone for a full minute. I locked the car, ran inside, and didn't sleep that night. I kept every light on in the house. I even moved a chair against the door. The next day, I told my neighbor, an old man named Mr. Rowland, about what happened. I expected him to laugh or tell me I was just tired, but he didn't. He got quiet, then he said, "That sounds like the Mirror Man." I frowned. "The what?" He nodded slowly. "There's an old story around here. People used to say that if you drive alone on certain roads outside town, you might see a man behind you. Always in the mirror. Never outside it." I waited for him to smile, to say he was joking. But he didn't. They say he was hit by a car while walking at night. The driver never stopped. Some say he follows people, hoping one of them is the one who left him behind. I didn't know what to say. I never told my parents. I never took that road again. And now, every time I drive at night, I check the back seat before I start the engine. Sometimes I catch myself glancing into the rearview mirror a little too often, and once, just once, I thought I saw a shape back there. But I didn't look long enough to be sure. I just kept driving. Last summer, I got a job cleaning houses with my friend Maria. It was good money, and we mostly worked in the nicer neighborhoods where people were always on vacation. One day, we got a call from a man who said he needed his house cleaned urgently. His voice was calm but cold. He said he was moving out and wanted the place ready for the new owners. We arrived at the address the next morning. The house was big but old. 2 stories, with faded paint and thick bushes covering most of the front yard. It looked abandoned. The man wasn't there. Just a note on the front door. "Keys under mat. Clean everything. Don't worry about the basement." We looked at each other. Maria laughed nervously. "Creepy much?" Still, we needed the money. We went inside. The air smelled stale, like dust and something else. Something sharp. The whole place was quiet and strangely empty. Just a few chairs, an old table, and some boxes. We split up. I took the kitchen and living room. Maria started upstairs. After a while, I noticed something strange. No matter where I was in the house, I could hear a low hum, like a machine running somewhere below. It wasn't loud, but it was constant. I checked the laundry room, thinking maybe a dryer was left on. Nothing there. Then I saw the basement door. It had a metal latch, but it wasn't locked, just shut tight. And the smell. It was strong now. Bleach. The kind that burns your nose. I pressed my ear to the door. Hum. I stepped back. Remembering. The note. Don't worry about the basement. Right. I tried to ignore it. But around noon, Maria came downstairs. Her face was pale. You smell that too, right? She asked. I nodded. It's coming from the basement. She paused. I think we should check it. The guy said not to. Exactly, she said. That's what makes it worse. We argued for a few minutes. Then curiosity won. We opened the basement door. A wave of bleach smell hit us hard. We both coughed. We turned on our phone flashlights and stepped down the narrow stairs. The hum got louder with each step. At the bottom, the floor was wet, not flooded, just damp. It looked like someone had scrubbed it over and over again. The walls were bare. No shelves, no boxes, just a big open space. And something in the corner, covered with a plastic sheet. We walked slowly toward it. Maria whispered, "It's just trash, right?" I didn't answer. She reached out and lifted one corner of the sheet. Underneath was a mattress, stained, old, with deep cuts across the fabric, and next to it a rope, and something that looked like broken handcuffs. We stepped back quickly. Then we saw the camera, a small black video camera, mounted in the ceiling corner. A red light blinked. It was still recording. We ran up the stairs, through the hall, out the front door. We didn't even finish the cleaning, just jumped into Maria's car and drove. Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, Maria said, "We need to tell someone." We drove to the nearest police station and reported everything. The smell, the basement, the strange note, the camera. We gave them the address and our names. The officer on duty took it seriously. He said they'd send someone right away. 2 days later, we got a call. The house was empty. The owner? No records. The phone number? Disconnected. The camera? Gone. The basement. Bleach cleaned everything. No evidence left. They said maybe it was a prank. A sick one. Or maybe someone trying to scare us. But we knew what we saw. The stains, the rope, the camera. We quit the cleaning job after that. But I still remember that basement. The smell. The hum. The cold feeling on the back of my neck. Sometimes when I pass old houses with basements, I wonder, what was that man trying to hide? And did we leave just in time? Last summer, I stayed at my older brother Ben's apartment while he was away for work. It was in a quiet part of the city. Nice place, clean, with a little balcony and a view of a small park. He told me I could stay there for 2 weeks while he traveled. I was excited, alone in the city, free to do whatever I wanted. For the first few days, everything was fine. I ordered food, watched movies, stayed up late. It was relaxing. But on the 4th night, something strange happened. I went into the bathroom to brush my teeth before bed. As I reached for my toothbrush, I noticed something odd. There were 2 toothbrushes in the cup. One was mine. A blue one Ben had left for me, but the second one was new. Red. Still wet. I froze. I hadn't bought a second toothbrush. I hadn't used a red one, and no one had come over. I stood there, staring at it, trying to think. Maybe Ben left it by accident? Maybe he used it before he left? But why would it be wet? I didn't touch it, just brushed my teeth quickly and went to bed, telling myself it was nothing. The next morning, it was gone. I checked the cup. Only my blue toothbrush remained. No sign of the red one. I was confused. Did I imagine it? Was I just tired? That evening, I checked the bathroom again before brushing. Now there were 3 toothbrushes, mine, a red one, and now a green one too. I backed out of the bathroom slowly, heart pounding. I walked through the apartment, checking the door. It was locked. Windows were shut. Nothing seemed out of place. But someone had to be coming in. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I called Ben. "Are you sure no one else has keys to your apartment?" I asked. He sounded confused. "No, just you." "Why?" I didn't tell him everything. I just said the place felt weird. He told me to stay calm, and that I could go stay with our cousin if I wanted. But I didn't want to look scared. I decided to stay one more night. Big mistake. That night, I locked the door, checked the windows again, and even slid a chair under the doorknob. I stayed up watching TV until almost 3 a.m., fighting sleep. At some point, I must have dozed off on the couch. When I woke up, it was still dark, and the bathroom light was on. I hadn't left it on. I walked slowly toward the door. The light buzzed softly. The door was open just a little. Inside the bathroom, the sink was wet. There were drops of water on the floor. And in the cup? 4 toothbrushes, a new one, a yellow one, now sat beside mine. All of them were wet. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone and called the police. I told them I thought someone was entering the apartment when I slept. I didn't care how it sounded. I was done pretending it was in my head. They came quickly. 2 officers checked everything. No sign of forced entry. No one in the apartment. But the yellow toothbrush? Gone by the time they looked. I could tell they didn't fully believe me. They were polite, but I saw the looks. One of them said, "Maybe your brother left them, or a cleaning person?" I shook my head. They were wet. They nodded, said they'd file a report, and left. That was it. I left the apartment the next morning. But before I left, I checked one last time. There were no toothbrushes at all. Not even mine. Just an empty cup. Now, months later, I still don't know what happened. But sometimes, when I stay at hotels or visit friends, I check the bathroom out of habit. And once, I swear I saw a red toothbrush in a place I'd never been before. Still wet, I left right away. Last summer, I stayed with my aunt and uncle for 2 weeks in their apartment. They lived on the 5th floor of an old building near downtown. The building was quiet, a little worn out, but clean. My aunt worked long hours, and my uncle was often out, so I had a lot of time alone. I didn't mind. I read books, played games, and sometimes just lay in bed staring at the ceiling. That's when I first noticed the vent. It was right above the bed, square and dusty, built into the ceiling. During the day, I didn't pay attention to it, but at night, when everything else was quiet, I could hear something coming from it. Voices. At first, I thought it was neighbors talking through the walls. The sound was faint, just murmurs. But when I listened closely, I realized it was coming from the vent above me, not from the side. The first night I really listened, I heard a whisper, a woman's voice, soft and slow. "Can you hear me?" I sat up quickly. My heart started pounding. "Hello?" I said, staring up at the vent. Silence. I waited, frozen, but there was nothing else. No more words. Just the normal night sounds. Cars outside, wind, blowing against the windows. I tried to forget it. But the next night, I heard it again. "Can you hear me?" the voice whispered. This time I didn't answer. I just lay still and listened. Then I heard a second voice. A man. His voice was deeper, colder. "He's listening now," it said. My chest tightened. "Stop," the woman said. "He's not ready." There was silence again. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning I asked my aunt if there were other apartments above us. She shook her head. "Nope, we're on the top floor. Nothing up there but the roof." "What about the vent?" I asked. "Old building. Air comes through from the hallway, that's all." I didn't say anything else. I didn't want her to think I was crazy. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was on the other side of that vent. That night, I stayed up with my phone, ready to record if I heard the voices again. They came at exactly 2:17 a.m. "Are you awake?" the woman whispered. I held my phone up, but the sound was so faint, the recording caught almost nothing. Then the man's voice returned. "He's afraid." Good. My body felt cold. I got out of bed, grabbed a chair, and stood on it to reach the vent. I unscrewed the cover and looked inside with my flashlight. Just a dark, narrow duct. Dust. Nothing else. But when I pulled the flashlight back, I saw something. Handprint. On the inside of the vent cover. Small, like a child's. Pressed into the dust. I nearly dropped the flashlight. I screwed the cover back on fast and jumped off the chair. That night, I slept in the living room. The next day, I tried to act normal. I didn't want to tell my aunt. She wouldn't believe me, but the voices didn't stop. They followed me into the living room. I heard them through the vents near the floor. "Why won't he answer anymore?" the woman said. "Because he knows," the man replied. That night, I turned the TV on loud and tried to ignore it. But then the power went out. The screen went black. The apartment was dead silent. And from the vent behind the couch, I heard breathing. Slow. Heavy. Then a whisper. "We're coming out soon." I ran to the hallway. The power came back a few seconds later, but I didn't go back inside. I sat in the stairwell until morning. When my aunt came out and found me, she looked worried. "You okay?" "I think something's wrong with the vents," I said. She gave me a strange look. "You're not the first one to say that." "What do you mean?" I asked. She sighed. "The last tenant before us, a young guy, stayed here one summer. Said he kept hearing things in the vents. Said they were talking to him." "What happened to him?" "He left in the middle of the night," she said. "Didn't even pack his stuff." I didn't respond. I just nodded. That was my last night. There. I left the next morning, 2 days early, and went back home. Now, even in my own room, I avoid sleeping under the ceiling vent. Sometimes, I still wake up at 2:17 a.m. And when I do, I swear I hear a whisper far, far above me. Can you hear me? Last summer, I worked at a grocery store to save money for college. I had the late shift, 4 p.m. to midnight. The job was easy most of the time. I stocked shelves, cleaned up spills, helped customers, and pushed shopping carts back into the store from the parking lot. But something happened one night that still makes my skin crawl. It was near the end of my shift, just after 11:30 p.m. The store was quiet, only a few people left inside, mostly workers. My manager, Sam, told me to do one last cart run before closing. I put on the safety vest, grabbed my flashlight, and headed outside. It was a warm night. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, and the whole place felt empty. I walked to the edge of the lot, where people often left carts instead of returning them to the corral. That's when I noticed something strange. A single cart was sitting by itself, far away from any cars, right at the edge of the lot near the trees. It looked old, rustier than the others. I pushed a few normal carts into the corral first, then slowly walked toward that one. Something about it felt off. When I reached it, I saw that the cart was wet, not from rain. There hadn't been any. The metal was sticky, and a weird smell came from it, like old meat or something rotten. I backed away and decided not to touch it. I'd tell Sam to send someone else. As I turned to walk back, I heard it squeak, squeak. I looked over my shoulder. The cart had moved, just a little. I stared at it, frozen. The wind. Maybe I bumped it? Then it moved again. A clear, slow roll forward. No wind this time. I turned and walked faster toward the store, but the squeaking followed me. I looked back again. The cart was rolling toward me, slow and steady. I stopped walking. Stopped too. I called out, "Who's out here?" Silence. The parking lot was empty. I pulled out my flashlight and pointed it around. No one. I turned and ran the rest of the way to the store entrance. Sam was inside, counting cash at the front counter. "You all right?" he asked, seeing my face. "There's something wrong with the cart," I said, breathless. "It was moving by itself." He raised an eyebrow. "Wind does that sometimes." "It followed me," he chuckled. "Maybe it just liked you." I didn't laugh. He saw I was serious and said, "All right, I'll check it in the morning. You can clock out." I went to the break room, grabbed my bag, and headed out the back door. I had parked near the loading dock, far from the front entrance. The lot was darker back there. One of the lights was flickering. I walked fast, eyes scanning every shadow. Then, I saw it. The same cart, right behind my car. No mistake. Same rust, same sticky shine. Just sitting there like it had been waiting for me. I stopped in my tracks. I looked around. Still no one. I pulled out my phone to take a picture, but my battery had died. Typical. I didn't want to go near it. But I had to get in my car. I took a deep breath, walked quickly to the driver's side, and got in. I locked the doors right away. Then I looked through the rearview mirror. The cart was gone. I blinked. It had been right there. I slowly turned my head to check my mirrors. Nothing. I was about to start the engine when something banged against the back of the car. Bang. I jumped, heart racing. I turned and looked through the rear window. The cart had rolled back and hit the bumper. It was touching the car now. I put the car in drive and got out of there fast. I didn't even stop at the red light near the highway. When I got home, I parked in the street and ran inside. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I got a text from Sam. "Did you park near the loading dock last night? One of the carts was there this morning, jammed under the back bumper of your car. How did that even happen?" I never replied. I didn't go back to work either. I told him I quit. For a few nights after that, I kept checking outside my window. Just in case. And one evening I swear I saw a shape at the end of my driveway. Just a dark metal frame. It was gone by morning. But I'll never forget that sound. Squeak. Squeak, getting closer. Last summer, I got a simple job house sitting for a family that went on vacation. They lived in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. The house was large and modern, with glass doors, big windows, and a backyard that touched a line of thick woods. They were gone for 2 weeks, and all I had to do was water the plants, bring in the mail, and make sure the place looked lived in. I could eat whatever was in the fridge, sleep in the guest room, and use the pool. Easy money. The first few days were calm. I swam, watched TV, and slept in. At night, I double-checked that all the doors were locked. Still, I always felt a little nervous. The house was so quiet and open, too many windows, too many dark corners. On the 5th night, something changed. It was past midnight. I was in the living room scrolling on my phone when I heard a click from the hallway. I paused. It sounded like a door unlocking. I stood up slowly and walked toward the sound. All the lights were still on. Nothing seemed out of place. I checked. The front door, locked. Then the back door, also locked. But the sliding door to the patio, open. Just a few inches. I knew I had locked it. I shut it quickly, locked it again, and pulled the curtain across. My heart was beating fast. Maybe I hadn't locked it properly before. That's what I told myself. The next night, I made sure to check every single door twice before bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Footsteps. Not upstairs. Not outside. In the house. I held my breath and sat up slowly in bed. The guest room door was open. I always left it that way. I peeked out into the hallway. Nothing. But I could still hear them. Soft, slow steps on the wooden floor. Coming from the kitchen. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed down the hall. I held my breath, listening. The kitchen was empty. The patio door was locked. I stood there staring at the floor. Then I saw it. A wet footprint. Just one. Right in the middle of the tile. Barefoot. Long. Fresh. I stepped back and called 911. The police came within 10 minutes. They searched the whole house. Upstairs, downstairs, even the backyard. No one. Nothing. But they found the footprint too. They told me maybe someone had come in, realized someone was home, and left quickly. I asked how they could leave if all the doors were locked. The officer didn't have an answer. The next day I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to seem weak, so I stayed. I kept the lights on all night. The next night I got even less sleep. Around 3 a.m., I heard something again. The sound of breathing. Not mine. It was coming from the hallway, just outside the guest room. Froze, too scared to move. Then came a whisper. Just one word. Hey. I jumped up, slammed the door shut, and pushed a chair in front of it. I stayed like that until morning. When the sun came up, I opened the door. No one was there. But now, the patio door was open again. I packed my bag and left that afternoon. Left a note for the owners and told them I couldn't finish the job. When they returned, they called me, angry that I'd left early. I tried to explain, but they didn't believe me. Said nothing was missing. Said I must have imagined things. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And I still think about that wet footprint. Only one. No trail. No other prints. Just one. Right. In the center of the kitchen floor. As if someone had stood there, just watching. Last summer, I got a part-time job at the public library. It was an easy job. Quiet, peaceful, and air-conditioned, which was a blessing during those hot days. I worked mostly in the mornings, shelving books and helping at the front desk. The library was old. Really old. It had tall wooden shelves, creaky floors, and a musty smell that never quite went away. Still, I liked being there. It felt calm, until I was asked to clean the back room. One day my manager, Ms. Claire, handed me a ring of keys and said, "Can you organize the storage room? It's the last door at the end of the hallway behind the history section." I'd never been back there before. That part of the library was always dark and kind of forgotten. But I nodded and went. The hallway was quiet. My footsteps echoed on the tile floor. At the very end, I found a plain wooden door. It had no sign, just a small number etched into the handle. 14. I unlocked it. The room inside was dark and dusty. Shelves lined the walls, filled with old boxes, broken chairs, and stacks of books that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. As I stepped in, the smell hit me. Something old, dry, and faintly sour, like wet paper. I pulled the light. String. A single dim bulb flickered to life. I began sorting books, stacking the ones that looked useful and tossing others into a donation box. That's when I noticed a small table pushed into the corner. On it sat a thick leather book, larger than any I had ever seen. Its cover had no title. I opened it. The pages were filled with handwritten notes. Different handwriting, different ink. Names, dates, short lines like, "He returned today," and "She saw me again." Some pages were blank. Some had drawings of faces, faint, rough, like someone sketched them quickly, and at the very back, someone had written in red ink, "Do not stay in this room past 3:33 p.m. I looked at my phone. It was 3:20. I laughed a little to myself. Probably some old joke left by a bored worker years ago. Still, I felt a chill. I put the book back and turned to leave. The door was closed. I hadn't closed it. I reached for the handle. It wouldn't turn. I jiggled the key. Nothing. I knocked, called out, "Hello?" No answer. I was locked in. I banged on the door harder. Still no one. And then the light went out. Total darkness. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. That's when I heard the whisper. "Why did you stay?" It was soft, like it was right next to my ear. I spun around, shining the light across the room. Nothing. But the air felt thicker now, like the room had shrunk. I backed up to the door, heart racing. My flashlight flickered. Then I saw the table. Again, the book was open. I hadn't left it open. The red ink was fresh now, dripping slightly. Too late. My phone screen went black. The room fell silent. Then, footsteps. Slow and dragging. From behind the shelves. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. The sound came closer. Then stopped. I whispered, "Please let me out." The door handle clicked, the light came back on, and the room was empty again. I ran. I slammed the door behind me and didn't look back. At the front desk, Ms. Claire was talking to a visitor like nothing had happened. I didn't say anything. I just handed her the keys and said I wasn't feeling well. I didn't go back the next day. I quit by email. Later, out of curiosity, I searched online for Room 14 library stories. I found a forum post from 10 years ago. A guy wrote, "Used to work at the library. Don't stay in the storage room past 3:33 p.m. Trust me." That was the last message he ever posted. Now I avoid libraries, and every summer, when the light feels too dim or the air too still, I remember that voice in the dark. Why did you stay? Last summer, my friend Ryan invited me and 2 others, Lena and Josh, for a weekend trip to his family's cabin in the woods. It was supposed to be a fun break. No phones, no internet, just nature, a lake, and a quiet place to relax. The drive was long and winding. We took a narrow dirt road through tall trees before reaching the cabin. It looked nice. Small, wooden, cozy. Ryan said his parents hadn't been there in years, but he still remembered where they kept everything. When we got there, the cabin door was unlocked. We looked at Ryan. "You sure no one else is staying here?" I asked. "Positive," he said. "Only I have the key." Still, the place felt strange. It was too clean. No dust, no cobwebs. The couch cushions were fluffed. A fire had recently been made in the fireplace. It was cold, but the ashes were fresh. "I don't like this," Lena whispered. "It feels like someone's still here." We searched the cabin. Every room was empty. The fridge had water bottles, and some canned food. Ryan swore he didn't bring it. I guess someone used it without asking, he said. Still, it's our turn now. We unpacked and tried to shake the weird feeling. We made dinner, played cards, and stayed up late telling ghost stories. That night we all slept in separate rooms. I woke up at 3 a.m. to footsteps on the wooden floor. I thought it was Ryan going to the bathroom, but the steps were slow. Too slow, and they didn't stop at the bathroom. They kept walking, up and down the hallway. Then I heard the front door creak open. I sat up, heart pounding. My room had no lock. The door creaked again, closing this time. I waited, holding my breath. Silence. The next morning, I asked if anyone had gotten up during the night. No, Ryan said. I slept like a rock. Josh and Lena shook their heads too. I heard footsteps, I said. And the front door opened. We went to check. The doormat was wet. It hadn't rained. There were muddy footprints, just a few, leading inside. Barefoot. Long, strange toes. Almost like they didn't belong to a human. Lena turned pale. This is wrong. We shouldn't be here. Ryan pulled out his phone to call someone, but there was no signal. I think we stayed in the wrong cabin, Josh said. There's another one down the road. Maybe this one belongs to someone else now. That made sense. Ryan looked embarrassed. Let's check, he said. We walked down the dirt path, through trees and brush, until we found another cabin. Older, darker, with broken shutters and a caved-in porch. Ryan's face went white. This is ours, he whispered. I remember that old tire swing. So whose cabin are we sleeping in? I asked. No one answered. We hurried back to grab our stuff. When we got inside, the cabin looked different. The couch cushions were gone. The fire was out, the fridge was empty, everything was dusty and cold. It wasn't like this an hour ago, Josh said. The hallway was darker now, and the bedrooms, all the doors were shut. We hadn't left them that way. I opened my room first. My backpack was gone. Where's my stuff? We opened the other rooms. Lena's suitcase was on the bed, ripped open. Her clothes were tossed everywhere. Ryan's duffel bag was in the bathtub, soaking wet. Josh's shoes were missing. Someone or something had messed with our things. That's when we heard the front door creak again. We ran into the living room. The door was wide open. Outside there were footprints in the dirt, not ours. Larger, deeper. We didn't wait to find out who made them. We ran. Back through the woods, past the broken cabin, all the way to the car. The car door was locked. Ryan fumbled for the keys. His hands were shaking. When we looked back, just once, we saw a figure standing at the edge of the trees. Still. Tall. Watching. We didn't wait. Ryan got the door open, and we drove as fast as we could down the dirt road. Nobody spoke until we hit the main road and saw the first streetlight. We never reported what happened. What would we say? That we stayed in someone else's cabin? That someone watched us in the night? Or that something knew we didn't belong there? I haven't been camping since, and sometimes when I wake up at 3 a.m., I swear I hear slow, heavy footsteps on the floor, like someone walking down a hallway. That isn't there. Last summer, I got a part-time job as a janitor at my old middle school. The school was closed for break, but a small group of workers were there cleaning and fixing things before the new school year. It felt strange being there without kids, without noise, just empty halls, echoing footsteps, and long, quiet hours. I worked mostly in the evenings. My job was simple: sweep classrooms, clean the bathrooms, and wipe down lockers. I liked the quiet, until I noticed something strange. Locker. 308. It was in the far end of the east hallway. That hall always gave me a weird feeling. It was darker than the rest, and smelled like old paper and damp clothes. Most lockers were empty and slightly open, but locker 308 was shut tight. locked, even though students had cleaned them out weeks. Ago. I tried pulling it open. No luck. I asked Mr. Don, the head janitor. "Hey, you know why this one locker's still locked?" He shrugged. "Could be a broken one. Just leave it." But something about it bothered me. The next day I checked again, still locked. I leaned my ear against it. Tap. Tap. I jumped back. It sounded like something inside had tapped. Twice. I looked around. I was alone. Maybe something had fallen inside? A ball? A book? I told myself it was nothing. But the next night I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. 3 soft knocks this time, as if something or someone was waiting. I left the hallway quickly and didn't go back for the rest of my shift. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the locker. The day after, I found Mr. Don in the supply closet. "Are you sure that locker isn't broken? I keep hearing things from inside." He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "That locker's been locked since before I started here. Almost 10 years. "What's inside?" I asked. "No one knows," he said. "They lost the key. Tried to break it open once, but it wouldn't budge." "Why not just remove it?" He lowered his voice. "Because the last time someone tried, the lights in that hallway went out. All of them. And one of the workers slipped, broke his arm. After that, they left it alone." I thought he was joking, but he didn't laugh. That night, I brought a flashlight and went back to the hallway. I stood in front of locker 308, heart racing. I knocked on it. Nothing. I turned to leave. And then I heard it. A low whisper. From inside the locker. "Help me." I froze. I leaned in closer. "Let me out." I ran. The next morning, I went to the principal's office and asked about locker 308. She gave me a strange look. "That locker is sealed. It shouldn't be touched." "Why?" I asked. She sighed. "Years ago, a boy went missing. His name was Ethan, 6th grade. He stayed late one day and no one saw him leave. They searched the whole school for days. The only thing they found was his backpack in front of locker 308. I swallowed hard. "Did they ever open the locker?" "They tried," she said. "But it was stuck, like something was holding it from the inside." I didn't ask any more questions. But that night, I went back. I had to know. I brought a small crowbar and a flashlight. I stood in front of the locker and whispered, "I'm going to open it now." The air turned cold. I slid the crowbar into the side and pulled hard. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, pop, the locker door creaked open. Darkness inside. And something else. A notebook. I reached in slowly and grabbed it. The pages were yellow, the cover dusty. I opened it. Inside were drawings. Childlike, shaky. All of them showed a boy with wide eyes, standing alone in a locker. On the last page, one sentence was written over and over. "He's still in here." I dropped the book and stepped back. Then I heard it, breathing. From deep inside the locker. Slammed the door shut and ran. I never went back to that hallway again. I quit the next week. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the tapping, even when I'm at home. Tap, tap, tap. And I wonder, what would have happened if I hadn't closed that door, or worse, what if something had come out? Last summer, I worked part-time as a late-night bus driver in a small town. The job was simple. Drive the last route at 10:30 p.m., pick up passengers from the main stops, and drop them off near their homes. The route looped around and ended, back at the station by midnight. Most nights were quiet. Sometimes a few tired workers or students rode with me. Other times, I drove almost alone. I liked the peace, until the night I picked up the last passenger. It started like any other shift. At 10:30 p.m., I pulled out of the station and began my route. The first few stops were empty. Then, at the third stop, a man got on. He looked about 30. Pale skin. Black hoodie. Head down. He didn't say anything, just dropped a coin in the box and walked to the back of the bus. I said, "Good evening," like I always did. He didn't reply. I shrugged it off. People were tired, and some just didn't want to talk, I continued the route. I noticed something strange. At every stop, no one else got on. Not one person. That was rare. Usually at least 3 or 4 riders came on before the halfway point. But the town felt empty that night, like everyone had disappeared. Still, I kept driving. When we reached the halfway loop, the man was still sitting quietly in the back. He hadn't moved. I couldn't see his face clearly in the mirror. He kept his head low, his hands in his lap. I stopped at the next station and looked back. "Sir, this is the turnaround. Last stop's coming up." He didn't answer. "Where? Are you getting off?" Still no response. Something about him gave me chills. I kept driving. Each time I glanced in the mirror, I felt like he was sitting closer. But I told myself it was just the angle, just my imagination. The lights inside the bus flickered. Then my radio buzzed, loud static that made me jump. "Base to driver 12, a voice crackled. I picked up. "This is driver 12, go ahead." The voice sounded shaky. "Did you pick someone up at stop 3? "Yes," I said. "One passenger." Silence. Then, "No one's supposed to be there. That area's been closed since last week." "What do you mean closed?" "There was an accident. A man was hit near that stop. He didn't make it. The route was changed because of that." I looked in the mirror. The seat was empty. I slammed the brakes. The bus screeched to a stop in the middle of the road. I stood up and turned around. The back of the bus was completely empty. He was gone. All the doors were closed. No windows open. There was no way he could have left. My hands were shaking. I checked under the seats, opened the bathroom door, looked in every corner, nothing. But then I saw it, on the last seat in the back, a coin, one single coin, the same kind used for bus fare. I picked it up. It was freezing cold. I sat back down and drove straight back to the station, heart pounding. When I got there, my supervisor met me at the door. He looked pale. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "I think I picked up a ghost." He didn't laugh, didn't call me crazy. Instead, he said, "You're not the first to say that." "What?" He nodded. 3 other drivers have quit this route in the past year. All said the same thing. A man gets on, sits in the back, never speaks, then vanishes. "Why didn't you tell me before?" He looked down. "Because no one ever believes it, until it happens to them." I quit that night. I haven't driven a bus since. But sometimes I still dream about that route. Driving down the dark, empty streets, and when I look in the mirror, he's always sitting in the back, watching, waiting.